The news has been coming out now in more mainstream news across the world, actually. So whether it's in the UK or here in the US, it's not just pro-Israel influencers and pro-Israel organizations saying this now. It's becoming more common knowledge. And that common knowledge is, oh my goodness, Hamas, they lied about the casualty numbers. We've been saying this. We already know this. But there's been a big comprehensive study done by the Henry Jackson Society that goes in depth what the numbers that were falsified and lied on. So, like, for example, more than 17,000 Hamas combatants are estimated to have been killed, yet these figures are largely excluded from reporting. So that's a huge number that no one ever talks about. Over 17,000 were definitely Hamas militants. You have several hundred, almost 2,000 people who in Gaza, Gazans who are cancer patients who died from cancer, who Gaza Health Ministry or Hamas counted as a civilian casualty of Israel. And then, of course, like we've been saying for a long time, you have people who aren't killed by Israeli rockets, but by Hamas rockets, by Palestinian Islamic Jihad rockets, who are counted as civilian casualties. Tablet Magazine did a study on this a few months back. Like I said, other people have for years for other wars. And this is the pattern. I talked about this just earlier today. This is always a pattern, you guys. This is how it works, is that to get the emotions out of you, there's the messaging. Oh, Israel's killing this many people, this many people, this many people. Once things have moved, not really died down because the war is still raging on, but enough time has passed that no one's really talking about Gaza anymore. Everyone's talking about, first it was Lebanon, now it's Syria. And so once we've kind of moved on from an issue, what happens is that the truth starts to come out by some of the mainstream news or just by research, like people who are tasked with researching this kind of stuff, for whom it usually takes a little bit longer to have this information anyway. Any military strategist, any news reporter worth their salt will tell you it is nearly impossible to get any kind of real accuracy in the middle of a war. It's hard to get things like the casualties, the final numbers. It's hard to, during a war, determine how this person died. In the fog of war, anything can happen. And so the fact that these news organizations were telling us Israel killed this many Gazans, Israel killed this many Arab Palestinians in the middle of a war was already very irresponsible, because as previous wars, not just in Israel, but anywhere, but previous wars between Israel and Hamas have shown, you have to investigate after the fact. The initial numbers aren't always what they seem, especially because the Gaza Health Ministry is Hamas. We cannot trust them. They're the ones who did October 7th in the first place. But now the real numbers are coming out. Surprise, surprise. So you guys can check out this study. And I do want to say this, that for those who maybe you're watching right now because you just want to get a better idea of what's going on in the Middle East, you're not in one camp or the other. Maybe you are like, look, I've been on the anti-Israel side for a while, but just things are adding up and I'm seeing a lot of things. And I'm just trying to give the other side a chance and see what's going on. I'm telling you right now, this is always the pattern. This is always how it goes. Israel's enemies start a war. Israel starts to respond. Immediately, the enemy starts saying, Israel's killing us indiscriminately. Israel's murdering our children. And everyone's emoting. Everyone posts their hashtag. Everyone does their, this year was All Eyes on Rafah and Free Palestine, all that stuff. This happened in the war in 2021. Amnesty International was like, oh, by the way, our bad. That UN school that was destroyed was a Hamas rocket. Oh, thank you for saying that now. And thank you for putting that on page 27 when you put on page 1 that Israel bombed a UN school. This happens time and time again. So if you're someone who doesn't care to just go with the crowd or follow the rhetoric, but you really do want to get to the truth, it'll behoove you to look into it. You can go to ibsi.substack.com, look at some of the articles. We try to bring all the receipts. You can look at the articles that we've written, the podcast interviews that we've had over the years, and I hope that it changes your mind. I'm confident that it will, because if you are an honest thinker, then you won't have a problem with your views being challenged.